Welcome to this overview of the Unreal Tournament movement system currently in the game. Things are due to change in terms of the movement. They're still tweaking it, still changing certain aspects of it. Some things will be removed, some might be added in. So this is not permanent, guys. This is pre-alpha. It's nowhere near the final product yet of the movement. But I thought a lot of people are missing out and haven't heard of all the different details that have been implemented. There's been a lot of information, so I thought I'd compress all the movement into one video. I thought it would take me 5-10 minutes to make, or well, be that long anyway in this video, but it went on for a lot longer. It's half an hour long. So what I've done is that I've made some annotations here, which are time codes that you can just skip to the points that you want to know about or want to hear about, because some people already know a lot of stuff about Unreal Tournament movement, and I don't want to bore you. So feel free to skip ahead to a certain movement mechanic or something that I talk about later on in the video. I'd love to see your comments as well. If you hate some of the movement systems or you like some of the ideas, comment on YouTube and stuff, do your thing. And if you like the content, subscribe. If you don't, well, dislike the video. I don't mind, so go for it. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and enjoy the video. Hi guys, this is an overview of the Unreal Tournament pre-alpha movement system. I wanted to show you some of the stuff that's been implemented into the game already. None of it is permanent as of yet. There's going to be some removals, some tweaks, some additions perhaps as well into the movement system, so bear that in mind, guys. This is not 100% permanent as of yet, but I just wanted to show some of the guys that have been sitting on the sidelines and not been playing the builds or following the news what the movement system was currently up to. So let's dig into this video. So first off, most of the time in all the Unreal Tournament series, we've used dodge to get around the map. Now it's always been kind of efficient. It's pretty good, but there is now a quicker way and a sort of quieter way, because dodging is quite loud. You can hear it across the map, which is sprinting. Now you simply sprint by holding W in, and that's all you got to do. And after a couple of seconds, you'll notice heavy breathing noises coming from the player model. I hope. I'm not fapping, as you can see both my hands are on keyboard and mouse. But this is sprinting. You are increased speed. It's the quickest way around the map. Problem is, it is very predictable. And once you stop running, it takes a couple of seconds to build up that pace again. And if you are interrupted, if you're shot, if you are hurt, you will stop sprinting. If you dodge, you will stop sprinting. If you jump, you'll stop sprinting. If you fall off of something, you'll stop sprinting. And if I change the view here, you cannot sprint by running backwards or strafing. You can only do it by pressing the forward key, and it's very, very subtle. It's very hard to tell the difference if somebody's sprinting or not by just looking. It really helps that they've added in this audio cue. But most of the time, I'll be honest, 99% of the time you are going to be dodging across the map, as it's the safest way to get around it. And that warm-up time to start the sprint is a little bit long, in my opinion. It takes way too long to start that sort of progression, and you can't exit a fight using it. You're still going to have to dodge your way out, because if you're shot, it stops the sprinting process. So that's pretty much the sprinting done. It's fairly useless. I'm not sure if it's going to get removed or not, but it does have its areas where you do use it, such as this corridor in particular. So if you want it to be sneaky, you could sprint across here quite quickly, as it is quicker than dodging, and you might be able to catch off the enemy off guard, say at the armor room here, because it is just a lot quieter than dodging. Another movement mechanic that's been implemented is the dodge lift jumping. So we have standard lift jumping that looks something like this. Gives us a lot of vertical height, makes us reach those hard to reach areas on the map, in the high areas. But now we have the dodge lift jump, which gives us a lot more horizontal movement, so we can reach other places, such as this ledge over here, whereas a normal lift jump wouldn't necessarily do. Kind of always fall short, but with a dodge jump or dodge lift jump, we can reach that ledge over there. and it's just a really nice mechanic. I like it a lot because it leads to more unique map design where you've got to think, do I need a vertical jump there? Do I need a dodge lift jump there? It's just really nice. I kind of like that mechanic a lot. And I failed that jump. There we go. And you know, it's very interesting for this shield play as well here, because if I change the view, you can see how floaty and easy to hit this is. We jump up there, very floaty on a normal lift jump. But if we lift dodge that, it's very, very quick and a different story. You know, we're less in the air, we're less likely to get a shot combo there. It is harder to do, but once you've got the mechanic down, it's so much better. So let's talk about wall dodging and how it's changed a little bit. So in 2K4 and UT3, you could only do one wall dodge at a time. You know, jump to a wall and then dodge. And that was pretty much it. But in this version, you can continuously wall dodge as much as you like so. But as you notice, after the first dodge, wall dodge, and you land on the second one, you lose a lot of vertical and horizontal height, and you sort of brought down a little bit quicker. So that just makes sure that it isn't permanent. But there are some places where you can make it permanent, such as this wall here. But essentially you can have infinite wall dodges, but on a normal flat wall, it's just impossible. So another addition that they've added is the dodge wall dodge. So instead of just doing a wall dodge like this, which is just a normal jump and then a dodge, which usually is quite slow in the air, as you'd expect. When you do a normal dodge, jump, it is quite slow. But when you dodge, the velocity is a lot quicker. But we can dodge, wall dodge now, which looks something like this. It's a lot more quicker, it's a lot more fluid in combat, it's a lot harder to follow, and it can lead to some very interesting plays. One of them being, if I load up a map quickly, if I load up deck,
5, 4, 3,
we can
2,
actually use
1.
it to a great effect in this area in particular. Like, so if somebody's using a sniper rifle or hit scan weapon in particular, we can continuously dodge really hectically, and it's really fluid, really quick, and really hard to hit, and it's really quite beautiful. So let's talk about the single tap dodge key, which you can bind to anything, as you'd expect. But this thing is a real game changer. It really helps new players learn the game much quicker and how to dodge, and you know, without straining or giving kids RSI in their fingers too quickly. Because let's be honest, it takes a long time to get the sort of movement control the double tap technique has all taught us, which is, you know, hold down W and then press A or D with a turning mouse to get the direction that we really want to be going in. There's nothing wrong with this technique. In fact, it's best to learn all the tools of the trade. But you know, if we were to try and do that by pressing W and dodge forward, you know, you get that interruption of the flow of movement. You know, it looks like that. It's just a stuttering effect, and essentially the single tap dodge eliminates that, because you can hold down W and then you can dodge forward, and you can keep up really nice fluid continuous movement, and whichever direction that you're pointing in or pressing, you dodge in, and you just single tap dodge it using just my mouse button here. And it's just a nice additional tool to the game that, you know, you can use for other things as well, because it makes, I think it makes life easier with the lift jumping in particular, the dodge lift jumping. So I think that makes life so much easier to do it with that. It's also especially on the shield belt jumping, as I said before. But it also leads into more movement mechanics, because this game doesn't have any dodge jumping in it, but it kind of does. It's a new UT sort of dodge jump, and it revolves around the single tap dodge and the dodge wall dodge. And how you use it is, if I go into first person, so running normally, and then we can dodge against the wall like so, and then we just simply just turn our mouse like so, and we get a dodge sort of jump effect going on. And it feels almost just like a dodge jump in 2K4, except that you need walls to do it. That's the only downside, but still a nice mechanic, and it's kind of nice to have more tools to use. So next up, let's talk about ramp dodging or slope dodging, whatever you want to call it. Every Unreal Tournament player knows about this. It's in all instances of the game in one way or another. And slope dodging in this game has become a lot easier because of the single tap dodge. You could just simply walk up to a ramp and press the single tap dodge in the direction that you want to go in, and you just easily get up there nice and smooth. Important things to note about ramp dodging: if you're right next to the ramp and you dodge up of it, you actually get a tremendous amount of height and speed, and in this case you can actually jump over the armor there, and you have to use the air control in this particular instance, and doing that actually leaves you up in the air a little bit longer. It makes you a little bit more of a target. So if you were to get up this, for instance, you kind of want to do it a little bit further back, you know, just gradually get up there. It's much quicker and sort of safer rather than floating in the air for a couple of seconds and getting shot down. But also interesting enough is that you can fake doing ramp jumps now. So you can dodge up and then dodge away with the dodge wall dodge mechanic in the game. You can reach hard to, well, you can do more trick jumps as well because of it. So like so, there's a lot of cool little features that have been added into this particular game, and I really like all the sort of ramp dodges that you can do, especially on a particular map that I'm going to show you now. So this map is Subsystem, and it's currently my favorite map because of all the cool little trick jumps with the ramp dodging and the slope dodging. As you can see, you've got these little curbs with very steep ramps on them, and essentially what that enables you to do is to do some awesome trick jumping. You can get to hard to reach areas very easily. It's kind of nice game mechanic, and with these kind of ramps you've got to get very close to them before you can like get up to certain areas. If you dodge too early, you're not really going to get up there so easily, or you're going to mess up your jumps. So to continue your flow, this is where the single tap dodge really comes into effect very well on a map like this. You can just simply walk up to this ramp, say you're running around this corner, you're dodging as quickly as you can, and then just do a single tap dodge to get up there. Now, you could do the double tap dodge that we all know and love, but doing it sometimes, to get it 100% that you always make this jump, you really want to hit right next to this ramp before you dodge, and that can lead you to kind of, you know, stop or fumble on this little ramp. So the single tap dodge is really good for movement across a map like this with all these kind of crazy sort of utilities. But this map in particular is my favorite because it's got all kinds of lovely jumps to get up to and trick jumps. So you can get up to there, nice little trick jumps across this map, and the ramp dodging is just a lot of fun in this game. And with the single tap dodge, it's even more fun because it's made easier. And I say it's made easier, it just gives a continuous flow. You can still do the classic way, but you're just going to have a lot more movement control in your keyboard skills and a more flick of the mouse, because if you want to keep that continuous flow, you got to really flick with your mouse hardcore. Now, I've mentioned about the single tap dodge quite a bit and how it's very useful, but there's also another mechanic that's been implemented, and it's in the movement system here, which is the single tap wall dodge. This thing needs to be uninstalled as it is really bad. I mean, the single tap dodge button is fine because you can use it to do your wall jumps for you, but the single tap wall dodge is a whole different story. So essentially, when you dodge or jump, or you're near a wall and you press an arrow key or a directional key, you dodge instinctively. But this doesn't just apply to when you dodge and jump. It can apply to when you get hit. So say if I'm battling somebody across the other side of this lava pool, which happens a lot in deck, and he hits me and I get knocked up into the air, and I accidentally press forward, I just instinctively jump into the lava, and it is really, really annoying and quite bad. So if anybody's playing, make sure that is removed, because it just ends up killing you more than you're actually saving you. I've seen a lot of people just die all the time, so make sure that's unticked and you'll do just fine. So you need to actually press it twice to wall dodge, or just use the single tap dodge. There you go. Just have a little bit more control over your wall dodging movement. Next up, let's talk about the jump boots. They're an item that you can pick up on some maps that are incredibly useful. And if you pick up a pair of boots, which I've already got, you get free boost jumps, essentially. You get free huge jumps that you can use across the map for free uses. And, you know, this is what jump boots looks like when you jump. You go massively high, and how to trigger it is that you just simply press jump once, then jump again, and you get a lot of vertical height using that method. But you can also use the dodge jump method. So basically you dodge and then add a jump to the end of it, and you get a lot more horizontal movement, but you still get a lot of vertical movement from that actually. And when you do it, you can also wall dodge as well to give yourself a little bit more vertical movement. Nice mechanic, very, very useful. But with the Unreal Tournament pre-alpha, there is a lot of air control. Unreal Tournament always seems to have a lot of air control, so you could jump and turn sort of quite well. So if I was trying to get to the shield belt, for instance, and I use the dodge jump and I overdo it, I can sort of correct myself and line myself up for the shield belt. And there is another feature they've actually added in as well. And this is, say you're in this top area and somebody shoots you off, like rocket launches at your feet, and you get thrown off and you're going to fall into the lava. You can essentially save yourself. So if you're quick enough and react quick enough, you can save yourself from falling into the lava. Now there's a cutoff point. If you fall too far, the boots won't activate. So you got to know when is the right choice to actually jump again if you're shot off a particular ledge. But it leads to some interesting game mechanics as well, because say you want to go for the shield belt there, and somebody's down here with a shock rifle and you've got no weapons, but you've got boots or something, you can bait out the shield belt. You can pretend that you're going to jump for it, and then you jump over it, use the air control, and take the belt again. So you can bait out the shot combos and such. It's just a really nice sort of new mechanic that they've added in. And the boots are really, really important for map control, especially on deck. If you want to be winning deck, you need to control the boots. So let's talk about hammer jumping and the different types of hammer jumps. So we've got the standard hammer jump, which is jumping, then hammering. Very consistent, and a quick burst like that will always do 25 damage. And then we've got the dodge version of it, where you dodge and then hammer jump, like so. And you know, you get a lot more, you get roughly the same height, to be honest, and you get a lot more forward momentum with that. And it's 25 damage for the quick burst, again the same. You start to do more damage to yourself the longer you charge up the hammer, but the longer you charge up the hammer, the higher you will go. So the major difference in the damage is actually quite simple in this game. It's either 25 or 40, and after the first chiming noise that your hammer makes when you charge up, you will do 40 damage to yourself instead of 25. So the chime noise sounds like this. There it is. And there it is again. That's just to say that the hammer's full and ready for melee combat. But after that first chime, you will always do 40 damage to yourself, no matter how charged up the hammer is. Now, if I wanted to get to the shield belt here, I'd have to charge up my hammer to full. And doing that with a normal jump, I'm not going to go very far. So almost there, but not going to quite make it. But if I did it with a dodge, pretty much make it every time, providing that I time the jump right. And hammer jumping is very consistent compared to the rocket launcher or the shock rifle jumping. In terms of the damages as well it does to yourself, it's always very consistent. And it is the best way to use a weapon to move around the map. The only downside to it is that when you're charging, it's very, very loud and you can hear it across the map and people can tell what you're trying to do. And for instance, this map, you often get this rocket launcher spawn when the shield belt's up and you've just been killed. You start charging up, jump towards the shield belt, usually you're going to get a combo in the face or some other form of weapon hitting you in the face. So bear that in mind. The hammer jumping is very loud, whereas the shock rifle jumping is a little bit quieter, but it's not going to take you as far. Okay, more weapon movement. Rocket launcher. Now this does a shed load of damage, but you can now rocket jump in this game. In the previous Unreal tournaments, you never got any height or any velocity out of a rocket launcher hitting yourself usually. You just stunt yourself a little bit, but now you could do a really big rocket jump. You can do two versions, of course, which is the dodge rocket jump, but also the jump rocket jump, which looks like this, rocket jump. That's what that looks like. I believe it does 88 damage to you as well, so I'm going to need some more health to survive the next one. And this is the dodge rocket jump. You can see it gives you a lot more forward momentum. Okay, let's do some shock rifle jumping now. Basically, all versions of the Unreal Tournament had some form of shock ball jumping, but in this version, it's slightly more difficult. The damages are slightly more random. Sometimes it will do 50, sometimes it will do 12. It all depends on its mood. But doing the standard jump, shock ball jump, is very inconsistent, I find. Sometimes you make it, other times you do not. Sometimes you go really, really high, like that. It's just a bit weird. Sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not. And then, you know, what I prefer to do though is the dodge version of it. Again, it's kind of risky. Sometimes you get a lot of velocity and height, sometimes you don't. And it's kind of a weird kind of mechanic. And they did change it. Previously, there was an older version of the build where it was a lot easier, and I could shock ball jump up to the shield belt up there quite easily, pretty much get around the map very, very quickly. And yeah, I do like this change because I think the shock rifle is just overpowered and has far too much utility already. So I think it's kind of good that, you know, it's kind of like rolling the dice when you want to do some trick jumping with the shock core at the moment, which is kind of a nice touch to it. So I'd rather switch to the hammer to guarantee those jumps, because I kind of know every time that I'm going to make those jumps. Another cool trick that you can do as well with a well-timed wall dodge is that you can get onto higher ground. Now, you used to be able to do a thing called a boost dodge, but that's been taken out of all the pre-alpha builds, and so now you just need a well-timed wall dodge to get an extra bit of vertical height on your wall dodge. So at the peak of a jump, you want to wall dodge, and hopefully we can get up here. They are difficult to do, these jumps, and it'll probably take me several tries to do. I'm going to give it a go. There you go. You don't always get it. It's pretty random sometimes, even if you think you've got the muscle memory down. Sometimes it doesn't work. I've just done two in a row, maybe the third in a row. No, almost there. But yeah, if you can get the muscle memory down to do that jump every time, you are a movement god. But it is very, very difficult. You've got to time it just right. There's other jumps you can do as well. You can do it here as well. Again, pretty difficult. But yes, you get the idea of it. Viable on some jumps, not so much on others. High risk, high reward kind of jobby. But, you know, it's a skill that you've got another skill to learn, but it's pretty hard to do. I just wish it was slightly more consistent. Okay, let's talk about the final two movement mechanics, and this is the roll and the slide mechanic, and this is bound to my left shift. And to roll, just simply hold left shift and then double tap in the direction you want to roll, and there you go. That's how easy rolling is. And you can also roll after a dodge, so if I dodge one way and hold roll, you know, after the dodge has landed, you start rolling in that direction. It also works for jump. And if you fall off of something high and you're holding shift, you'll actually roll, and this prevents fall damage, or it reduces fall damage at least, though it doesn't entirely work at the moment. For some funny reason, it doesn't work for me anyway. I seem to get the same amount of damage no matter what, but I'm sure that might be implemented later. What I'd like to see with the roll, say if I was to roll down a slope, I think it should give continuous movement as you roll down it, and then you could follow it up by, say, a big dodge afterwards to get some forward movement. That would have been a nice sort of game mechanic, but unfortunately rolling down slopes or hills does not speed you up whatsoever. And if we go into first person mode, this is what it looks like, and it does have like a recovery time as well, so it's not ideal to dodge in a close combat situation. It was meant for, you know, combat dodging, a little bit more confusing your enemy, but at close range with rockets and projectiles, it's just not safe to do. You just become such an easy target when rolling. Long range hit scan weapons are out. It's a little bit better. It's harder to predict. You don't see it coming necessarily, but the roll is not very controllable at some points. Well, it is, but it's just something not right about it. I don't feel 100% in control when I'm trying to get my movement and my dodge going. I can't, you know, I feel safer just WSANDing to strafe out a hit scan, for instance, rather than going for the dodge, or the roll, sorry, even. But what I do like about it is the implementation of map design. As you can see, this little gateway, or whatever you want to call it, you can crouch under, but what you can do to keep some form of fluidity in your movement, you can dodge and then roll under it. And so I kind of really like those features. I kind of like to see that more in the map design on some of the maps. I think that's really good thinking. Apart from that, that's essentially the roll. And let's talk about the slide now. So next up is the sliding mechanic, or better known as the wall sliding mechanic, I should say. And essentially what this does, it gives you a little bit more hang time and grip on walls that you jump or dodge near. And I'll show you an example right now. So say if I want to just to jump across this gap, it just won't happen. I can't make that gap. But if I use this wall here to slide across, I can make the gap. And you heard that swooshing noise. That's just to indicate that you're actually grabbing the wall. So if I was to just jump on the wall, no noise. But if I was to use the slide, I hear the swoosh sound. So it lets you know that you're doing the grip. And also you can visually see it anyway. But you don't really hang very long. You don't gain any sort of vertical movement. And there's not many maps or places that utilize the system very well. It'd be really cool to have it implemented maybe there on this wall here, you know, be able to get up there. If it gave you a little bit more vertical height, like a proper parkour wall run, for instance, rather than just a sort of quick slide. You can use dodge as well, which is probably the preferred method, but using it on flat terrain, such as this, when you've got a floor next to you, it's really not that useful. Doesn't really give you that much additional grip. But if we change my view here, I'll show you what you could use this jump for. So if I wanted to get to that armor here, I would have usually done like a jump wall dodge, but you can't make it. It's just too far. Or dodge wall dodge. You know, you just don't have enough height left on the wall. But what the slide enables you to do is keep that hang time in the air long enough so you can get the next wall dodge off and land on the 100 armor there. Like so. And I really like this feature. I just think it needs to be implemented a little bit better and animated a little bit better. That shows you what you're doing. But it would be nice to get more vertical height coming out of it, and maybe a little bit of velocity coming out of it as well. But yeah, that's the slide jumping in a nutshell. So I want to show you the differences in distance with all the jumps, and first off we're going to start with the jump. Next is the dodge. Next is the wall dodge. And now we're going to do the wall dodge slide. And now we're going to do the dodge wall dodge, which I need to switch view. It's a lot easier to do. And now we're going to do the wall dodge dodge. There you go. That's kind of the rough distances of all the movement types that you can do in this game.